Okay, Sailing Prepper here, back again. Now I'll give you a little story. It's story time with Sailing Prepper. I said in my next video I'd give you a little bit about me. Okay? Now we're going to go with teachers on this one because we're going to go back to my high school days and right after. When I was in school, I had a course that I was taking up in something called Wildwood BOCES. It was called Criminal Justice. And the teacher I had, Officer Bud Burdett. All right? Now, they trained me to be a cop. All right? So, at one point in my life, I actually wanted to be a cop. So, I wasn't very good at it. I was illiterate at that time, but I was stubborn and I was trying to read and trying to learn to read, and I could barely read, mind you. I was also dyslexic, and my teachers couldn't figure out how to help me, apparently. So, I took that course for 2 years before I passed to the second course. I took it, and then I took it a second year. I was stubborn and I wouldn't give up. Towards the end of my second year, for reasons of my teacher, he got removed. He did teach us right because he taught us how cops were supposed to be. Now, one of the things you people should know is cops are trained to actually fire at the chest of a body, okay? So for those of you, and people even back then I heard, why don't you shoot them in the leg or in the arm? Because it doesn't always work in its bowl, all right? You can get yourself killed that way. He also taught us other things, like when you first enter an area, you take cover, you assess the situation, and then you proceed. Simple, basic, knowledgeable things that cops should know. All right. There was a guy in a Walmart somewhere. He was showing his kid a BB gun. Nobody was worried. There was no one freaking out. Someone called the cops. The cops went right past the tellers that were doing absolutely nothing. Went up to where the guy was showing his son the BB gun and shot him instantly. Killed him. Right in front of his son. Things like that could have easily been taken care of if they looked around, saw that nobody was freaking out, panicking, hiding, taking cover. If when they saw the guy showing his son the BB gun that was on the shelf, if they took cover at first and assessed the situation, that guy should have never been shot. Okay, so he was teaching us things like that, and amongst other things. And he was teaching us right, because he was teaching us the way cops used to be taught. Now, I did some stupid things I'm not completely happy with, but, it happened after he left. And, well, long story short, because I was in BOCES and illiterate and all those things, I graduated my high school barely, and I ended up just being in BOCES, but they put me back in the first year, and I asked why. Well, they wanted to keep me. I overheard one of the teachers saying because they were losing too many students. Too many students were dropping out. They were even trying to keep me in high school even though I already graduated, and this made no sense to me. I went through the ceremony and everything. So I was like, well, this is it. I'm done. My last year, And I says, there's no reason for me to stay. If I've already graduated high school, you're not going to do anything else for me. I literally had to go to a guy by the name of Jack Nowers to actually help me my second year. which is why I did pass my first year of criminal justice, and I'll get with you on that in a little bit about how I know for a fact that I graduated high school, or not high school, criminal justice. I know I graduated high school because I got my diploma, and it was for his help. When he was helping me with this towards the end, um, teachers in my homeroom, which just wanted to sit in the back and play Uno, threw a fit that I was in his class. A woman that I was staying with, her and her family working on a farm, they called up to complain about this with her. She goes, well, why are you just having them in the back playing Uno? Because she asked me about it. And they go, well, what do you think he could do? Learn? Well, apparently I could, because I graduated high school because of Jack Nowers. But younger teachers back then didn't want to teach me anything. And I needed the extra help. But for teachers that were willing to give me the extra help, I was actually willing to do that. There was also another teacher, an older woman, I can't remember her name. She was like in she was like 49, almost 50 back then. And she actually taught me algebra. I could never understand algebra until she took the extra time out. And her words were, I don't understand the school these days. They're keeping you in this class. If you had a little extra help, I can teach you. I believe in you, and you're one of the ones that want to learn. So my teachers were deliberately trying to hold me back. But like I said, I graduated high school because of those two teachers. If not, I would have probably graduated with an IEP and never gotten anywhere. Needless to say, so after that, I tried to be a cop, even though I left all that. And I wasn't allowed to be a cop. One reason was because I was still having trouble reading and writing a little bit. And eventually I went to the literacy volunteers for that. And I was able to read. And now I can read fairly decent compared to most people. Okay? And I say that because a lot of people are at what I used to be at. So this is your schools. This is what you send your kids to school for. Okay? If you don't fight for your children, they'll end up fighting like I did, and most of them, and most of the people with me that were able to, either didn't want to learn to read or write and do their schoolwork, or they were put in classes where the teachers didn't care, and it was always the younger teachers that didn't care. The older ones were actually willing to teach. Okay? Anybody who wanted to actually learn, they would have taught. And this is the problem with Hornell High School, which is the high school I went to. Horrible school, just because of the way the teachers were set up. The older ones were great, but then they were aging them out and getting them out, and when that was happening, kids were failing, and it was the problem of that. And I'm just using my personal examples, but I know I'm not the only kid that went through that, and there were kids there that didn't want to learn, and the teachers just let them. Like I said, she wanted everybody to just sit in the back and play Uno every day. Play cards. I don't want to teach anything. And she got away with it. And then when I left her class to go to Jack Nowers, she literally yelled at him, called up, the whole 9 yards. So, it was ridiculous. People can learn if you give them a little extra, if they do have trouble learning. And I just had trouble learning. Needless to say, like I said, I went through, trying to learn to be a cop after school. And I was told I cannot be a cop because I also had anger issues and was too aggressive. And they thought that, you just can't do this. You're too aggressive, too angry, too violent. And not that, I was violent like where I would pick fights. I was violent like where when we were doing tactical fighting training, I would do moves that could actually hurt my teacher because I just wouldn't, I'd lose it and wouldn't give up. Things like that. So you know, needless to say, when I say that the cops are not being taught right these days, it's because I know that they're not being trained right. I also know what their training goes through. I have friends that are cops from way back when I was younger. I have friends that were cops before I even tried to be. I'm the kind of kid that, you know, and you're. This is probably a story you wouldn't believe, but when I was a kid, I used to get invited to a cabin. We had a guy by the name of Patrick McGlenn. He was nicknamed Tiny, and people from the law enforcement area, from the judges, um, Judge Purple, Judge Scudder, you know, I knew these people very well because I would go to this party every year and I'd be allowed to go there. And although they watched me carefully, you know, to make sure I didn't get drunk, they did allow me to drink a little. And I was doing that growing up. So, yeah, I know these things. And, you know, was trained in being a cop for many years. Um, Later on, I made some other stupid decisions, but that's neither here nor there. The point I'm making is our schooling system does suck for our kids. We are farther behind than anybody. And if people are taught by older teachers, they have a better chance of succeeding because the older ones actually went to be teachers because they wanted to teach kids. A lot of the younger ones don't, or at least not in that school that I went to. Um, and they do hurt and affect people like that. The reason I know I passed criminal justice, a woman who's biologically my mother has passed away. I don't really consider her my mother, but that's my own personal reasons. Um, she got a hold of me. She's like, Melvin, you know, I'm 25 at this point. She's like, yeah, your school just sent me this from you know, BOCES. Your criminal justice class, yeah, they said that you graduated. You want this certificate? No, I don't. I had no reason to take that. It was useless to me. I obviously graduated. I knew I graduated because Bud Burdett said I graduated. And they hid it in the main office and wouldn't let me have it and wouldn't let me succeed to the second class because of those reasons. And they wondered why I left. They fought with me about trying to learn. Now I see people today, people that barely went through school, some that actually graduated school but then don't want to learn anything after that. They're the kids that, you know, reading, writing, and math, you know, they had parents that actually were on their side, and after that, they just sit in their room and play video games and don't want to learn anything. They don't watch history documentaries or anything like that. I do watch those things. Um, I learned things because I want to. When the coronavirus came out, I literally, while I was at work, because they allowed me to wear earphones while I actually work and listen to music or stuff, I went on YouTube, and what I was listening to for the longest time was how viruses are done, how they work, how they make. And it gave me a better perspective of how viruses work. Um, and I've heard some people say certain things about him that, you know, I'm listening to this professor and actually taking his course for free because I'm allowed to through the YouTube thing that he put up. And I'm like, these people are full of it. They don't know what they're talking about because the professor's saying that's not how it's done. And he's taught to train it. And these people aren't any more trained than I am, if that. I might actually have a little more knowledge because I took that little bit of knowledge just because I wanted to learn more about what was happening with the coronavirus. So I took a online course with a professor that was free, through YouTube and learned. People, learn. Broaden your knowledge and forget all those things that your teachers wanted to teach you, except for your basics reading, writing, math, and arithmetic. Because outside of that, they lie to you. With all the things I've learned, they lie to you in general. Okay? Me and someone I know, we've actually gone through things that I was taught in school that were never taught in his school. It's like when it comes to history, they hide a lot of history. And you have to do your own research because they don't want you to know about what happened during the Great Depression and the things that have happened to African Americans in this country. They don't want you to know more about Christopher Columbus than what they want to teach you. And then a lot of it they've hidden and changed over the years. They've actually gotten less on that. And history is very important. Like I said, right now, people want people to be dumb robots following things. They don't want you to learn. They don't want you to read and write. They want you to go to a dead end job, go home, play your video games, watch your TVs, and then they want to take certain things away from you if it messes with them politically, like where Trump goes against TikTok. If you broaden your knowledge like that and are smart enough like that, how can you say anything on Facebook or TikTok or social media of any kind or anything on TV is going to hurt you? It's just more knowledge they don't want you to have, whether it's right or wrong, and then for you to make up your mind if it's real or not. And that's the way it should be. That's why they say, oh, people, they got to be removed because they talk about certain things. So what? You don't believe it? Don't worry about it. Well, they affected our election. So what? Then the people are dumb enough to believe it, but they should be allowed to have the knowledge they want. If you don't allow people to have knowledge, then you're saying basically they're incapable and stupid of learning anything and making up their own minds, and you want to control them. And that's why they do that with speech these days. That's why the Democrats do it. And if Biden wins, we're in for hell. And it's pretty close that he might win. Sorry to say it. If Trump wins, we're still in for hell. I just don't think it's going to be as bad. Because right now the Democrats have turned into a bigger totalitarian party than Trump could ever be by himself. And the Democrats aren't much different. That's why I say vote for third party. People say get your guns ready. You really don't need guns. There are many other ways to kill people. But yeah, sure. Go get all your weapons ready. Prepare to fight. Kill yourselves. I just want my boat and get the hell out of this country. And, I'll burn. Sailing Prepper signing out.